everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as you can see by the title, I will be talking about my process of how I transferred and reapplied to the EPIK program. So if you are interested in knowing all about my experience transferring and reapplying within EPIK, then keep on watching. If you have been subscribed to me or if you've watched any of my videos in the past 2 years, then you know that I lived in Sejong City for the past 2 years, and I loved my school. I loved living in Sejong. Even though at first it was a little bit of an adjustment, I actually really grew to love Sejong, but I felt like I know that my time in Korea is ending soon and I just wanted to experience something different. Even though I had an amazing school, amazing co-teachers, amazing students, and a really great apartment, I just wanted to experience something different before my time in Korea ends. So I decided that I wanted to transfer with an EPIK, which meant reapplying to the program. This video is going to be all about my process and my timeline and all of the documents that I needed. When I was reapplying and transferring, there really wasn't a lot of information for teachers that are already in Korea. That includes people that are already EPIK teachers, people that work in hagwons or other schools in Korea, or if you have worked in Korea in the past, this also has things that could apply to you. So yeah, let's get into the video. I have all of my notes that I've taken from the entire process. I hope this video won't be super long, but I will try my best to keep it on topic, on track, and as short as possible. But of course, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments down below and I will try my best to answer them. So just a disclaimer, like I already said, this is my experience, my personal experience reapplying and transferring with an EPIK. Not everyone has the same experience. Not every intake has the same timeline. I could say these things and make this video, and the next intake they do something completely different. So just keep that in mind when you are in your process. Whatever videos and blogs that you see, you can use it as a guideline, but that might not be how it goes for your intake. So because I am a spring intake teacher, that means that I started working in February, which also means that the application process basically starts like 6 or so months before that. So the application for the spring intake opened on August 1st. This time around, I decided to apply directly because I'm already in Korea. I already know the process. I don't really need a recruiter, and that just slows things down. So I applied the minute that the application came out on August 1st. And now, compared to when I first applied to EPIK, everything is online. Everything is basically like a fillable website. Instead of printing out the application, checking everything by hand and signing it, and then sending an attached email to EPIK, everything is completely online. So you basically have like a certain window of when you need to submit things. I believe that if you complete a page, you can save it and come back to it. But when it comes to the essays and things like that, I think you have to finish and fill out everything and then submit it. Like you have a certain time of when you need to submit the application. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember exactly, but it took about 30 to 40 minutes for me to finish. If you are curious about the exact time that I sent my application in, I sent it at 9:41 a.m. Korean Standard Time. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but I wrote that down. I guess it's important. Because I live in Sejong, on August 5th, I emailed the Sejong Education Office coordinator to let her know that I was basically not going to be renewing my contract and I was reapplying and I needed my documents. If you are a teacher in Korea, you need to basically send your documents back to EPIK, but you don't have to go through the process of getting them from your home country. You can just get them from your education office, or I believe immigration also has copies of your documents. Every education office is different. Some education offices will give you the actual original documents that you submitted when you applied for your job. Some of them, most of them, will actually give you a certified copy. So I believe Sejong Education Office still has the originals of all of my documents, but my coordinator gave me a certified copy of my documents, which has like this stamp that basically says these documents are legit and they are stamped and signed by the Sejong Education Office. So these documents are fine. I asked my coordinator for my documents on August 5th and I would be picking them up on the 24th, which is like 2 or 3 weeks later because we had like summer vacation. And that same day, I went to my local community center to pick up a certificate of entry and exit. This document basically just lists the days that you have been in Korea and you left Korea, the days you came back to Korea and left Korea, just so they can keep a record and track of when you have been in Korea. And this comes into play when it comes down to you getting your criminal background check, because you have to be in the country for a certain number of days or your background check is basically non-valid and you would have to get a new one. And then, like I said, on August 24th, I picked up my documents from the Sejong Education Office, which were a copy of my diploma, a copy of my criminal background check, and a copy of my transcripts. So all of this happened in August. I just reapplied and got my documents. In September, I believe this was the second week of September, EPIK called my co-teacher and asked her some questions. I'm not really sure exactly what day it was. I just know it was the second week of August. I had no idea EPIK would call her, but I remember she kept asking, like, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? And I'm like, no, I haven't heard anything. It'll probably take a while. I remember just randomly one day she was like, oh, actually, EPIK called me and they like asked me some questions about you. So expect that. On your application, you do have to state your co-teacher. You do have to name, I believe, your supervisor. I'm assuming your main co-teacher or your main handler. And then you have 2 or 3 spots for recommendations. So keep in mind the order of what you're putting. Maybe if you don't have a great relationship with a certain co-teacher, I would put them last or just keep that in mind, because I do believe that that is the order in which they call your co-teachers. So I could be wrong. I have a great relationship with all of my co-workers and my co-teachers anyway, so but yeah, that is a possibility. So just keep that in mind on who you're listing on your recommendation. But they called my co-teacher about the second week of September. That same week is when interview emails started going out for direct applicants, not teachers that are currently in Korea or have taught in Korea before. Now, because EPIK had called my co-teacher, I kind of assumed, oh, I guess that means that interview emails will start coming out soon for current teachers. So on September 11th, I asked my school administration office for a proof of employment document. And this basically says so-and-so is working at our school, and this is how long they've worked at our school, and you will need this in order to prove your teaching experience, how long you've been teaching, because this will come into play for your salary level. Second week of September, interview emails started going out for direct applicants. The following week is when people started to hear back if they had passed their interview or not, and that same week is when teachers in Korea started getting interview emails. In the past, this time frame for teachers in Korea typically happens in October is when they start getting interview emails. So things were happening a lot sooner than we expected. I got my interview email on September 25th and I booked it for Saturday, September 26th. I honestly felt kind of bad booking my interview for Saturday, but it was the next day and I wanted to get it over with as soon as possible, and it was available. I felt bad for them because they had to actually be in the office on a Saturday working and doing interviews all day. So the next day I had my interview, and 2 days later I got my email that I passed my interview and that our documents would basically be sent out to the offices of education by the end of October or beginning of November, and we should hopefully be getting our placements in December. So the next day, on September 29th, I mailed off all of my documents to EPIK, but because of the Chuseok holiday, they wouldn't be shipping out until October 5th because it was a really long holiday. That costed 3,910 won. I forgot to also mention that the certificate of exit and entry was 2,000 won, and my documents were delivered to my EPIK coordinator on October 5th. I didn't hear anything until December. If you know anything about the EPIK program, it is a waiting game. You are spending a lot of time waiting, a lot of time wondering, when am I gonna hear back on things? Did something go wrong? Am I missing something? Did I not get some message that everyone must have gotten? But yeah, I waited 2 months to hear anything back from my coordinator. Actually, not from my coordinator. On December 1st, the Seoul Education Office called my main co-teacher and asked her some questions about me. If you are just applying straight into EPIK for the first time, I don't think that EPIK or education offices will actually call all of your references because that is hundreds and thousands of people that apply to the program. I think it's mainly for people that are already in Korea just to call their references and see, like, is this person actually good working in a Korean environment, in a Korean school environment. And yeah, they just asked her questions about me and how I work. So that same day, I actually went back to my community center to get a new certificate of exit and entry, because for the exit and entry, it actually has to be by a certain date. I believe if you are going into main intake for spring, which is in February, your certificate of exit and entry has to have a date of anywhere after December. I believe it has to be 3 months before you need it. So if you're going in March intake, then you need it dated by January. If you're going April intake, then you need it dated by February. So because the original one that I got was dated in August, just as a placeholder for documents, I needed to get a new one dated December 1st or later. So I went and got that on December 1st, which was 2001, and I mailed it to my EPIK coordinator, which was an extra 3,071, and it got delivered to them 2 days later. On December 11th, that is when placement emails started going out. I got my email that I was placed in Seoul on December 11th, and 2 days later, my EPIK coordinator asked me for all of my information, most importantly, my current school's address, so that they could mail a packet to my current school. And this packet basically included my notice of appointment and my contract for Seoul. And on January 8th, 2021, that is when my EPIK coordinator emailed me that my notice of appointment and my contract package was mailed out, and I got a copy of my contract 3 days later on January 11th. And it's just a copy of the contract. I didn't need to do anything with it. If you are outside of Korea, that's when you need to take your contract and take it to your consulate or your embassy and basically get the visa, the E2 visa for your passport. But if you are already in Korea, it's just a copy of the contract. You don't need to do anything with it. It's just a copy for you to have. Whew, we are almost done. Almost done. So I got my copy of the contract January 11th, and I didn't hear anything back from EPIK until February 4th. And between that time of January 11th and February 4th, my actual EPIK coordinator was no longer working with EPIK, so I got a new EPIK coordinator. They didn't have the certificate of exit and entry that I sent in December, so I had to send a new one, which was fine because it's really cheap. So I sent a new copy of the exit and entry, and I also sent a copy of my proof of teaching experience. Now, I was still teaching at my school in Sejong, so my proof of teaching experience still said that I was working at my school. So it's not like it was finalized, if that makes any sense. The next day, on February 5th, I actually got an email from my new school. So I found out the school that I would be working for and like the general area of where I would be living. I felt very glad and very grateful that I already had an idea of where in Seoul I would be. But I do have friends and know people that it took a while for them to find out where they would be. So that same day, on February 5th, I got an email from the Seoul Office of Education about getting a health check before I leave Sejong, and a Korean criminal background check form that I needed to fill out and sign and scan back to them. On February 23rd, I actually went to the Seoul Education Office in person to sign my official contract. Now, I was already on vacation. I do know that some people weren't able to take off that time to sign the contract, so they actually went later, but I was able to do it during my winter vacation, so I did it before I actually started my job. So I did that on the 23rd, and on the 25th of February was my last work day of my job in Sejong. So even though it was a vacation day for me, I still went to my school because there were a lot of things that I needed to do. The major things that I needed to do was say bye to my main co-teacher. I also needed really important documents. So I needed a copy of my income tax document because you need that to renew your E2 visa. I also got my last paycheck stub, and that basically included my last paycheck for February. It included my renewal bonus that I would be getting for renewing my contract. In Sejong, when you renew your contract, you get part of it at the beginning of your contract and the last part of it when you finish your contract. And I also got a contract completion bonus. So I got a lot of money basically from leaving Sejong. I also got a copy of what I would receive for my severance. When you end your contract, you get your severance like 2 weeks later. And there are two main ways that you can receive your severance. It honestly just depends on how your school decided to set up severance when you were working there. But basically, if you talk with your main co-teacher, then they should be able to help you figure out how you will get your severance. If you have any questions, of course, you can leave them down below. I don't want to make this video super long, but if you have a question on severance, then leave it down in the comments and I will try my best to help you. So yeah, basically my last day at my job in Sejong was making sure I was getting all the money that I was supposed to be getting and saying bye to my main co-teacher and my last moments at my school. And the next day, on February 26th, is when I moved. So I moved and left my apartment in Sejong, and I got a moving truck and moved all of my stuff to my new apartment in Seoul. And that same day, I actually went and visited my school. So I was super sweaty and tired and gross, but I really wanted to just have a feel of where my school would be, how the vibe was, my co-teachers, and of course introduce myself to my principal and vice principal. March 2nd was the first day of school, and March 9th is actually when I went to immigration to renew my visa. I really hope my camera battery doesn't die on me. Oh no, I'm gonna try and hurry really quick. But when you change your address, you have 14 days to change your address. So you really need to make sure that you do that in order to not get fined. You also have until your alien registration card expires to renew your visa. If you are moving to Seoul, please make an appointment on immigration online before you get to Seoul. I really wish that was something that I knew. Like, I would have booked my immigration appointment way sooner, but everything was booked. Like, I basically had to take off time and leave school early in order to go to immigration and make my appointment, and even at that, it was just such a headache. I highly recommend, if you know you're going to be in Seoul, just make your appointment for immigration online. For teachers in Korea, or if you are already an EPIK teacher, the process for people that are already in Korea, it's actually easier when you've already been a teacher in Korea. There's just things that no one says online that made it a little bit frustrating, and certain documents that maybe your co-teacher hasn't heard of, or you're trying to get more information and you can't find anything. I really hope that this video is helpful for you. I really wish I knew some of this information when I was reapplying. But yeah, I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing. When you're getting your health check, I would suggest getting a copy for your education office. Get a copy for yourself just as extra, just so you can open it there and see if they made any mistakes. For me, the hospital that I went to actually spelled my name wrong, and I accidentally put my school in Sejong's name instead of my new school in Seoul's name. So I was glad that I opened it and was able to check it and tell them to fix it before I actually paid for it and went home. So get one for yourself, get one for your education office, and I would possibly suggest also getting one for your school, your new school. My vice principal actually wanted to make a copy of my health check. I don't know if all vice principals do this. I don't know if all schools do this, but mine needed a copy of it. So I'm glad that I got extra copies. So you might maybe need that. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say, and that was my experience of reapplying to EPIK. So I hope that it was helpful if you are in the situation. Again, remember that this is my experience. Not everyone has the exact same experience as me. I don't know if things will change in the upcoming intakes, but I hope that some of this information is helpful to you, and I wish you good luck in the process. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below and I will try my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you hopefully in my next video. Bye!